This is a big story that hasn't got enough coverage that it deserves because this is really, really big. The Iowa City Transit is now free. The City Council voted it in June to approve a 2-year pilot program for a free fare. And why is this such a big story and why is this so important? Well, stay tuned and find out. Okay, American cities were built for cars. They're just all car-centric now. And that dependency has changed the way that we live, notably in our communities and neighborhoods, because that design has been car-centric. The average workday distance has increased to an average of 7 miles, and suburbs have pushed commercial amenities further and further away from where we live. Cars are also the second most expensive household investment and the single biggest way that Americans emit greenhouse gases. The benefit would also be better for drivers too, as the more people who use public transit, the less people that are on the roads driving, and that means there's more parking available as well. And that's why this story is important. The free fare trial aligns with the Iowa City Strategic Plan, which has climate, equity, and economic goals to improve livability objectives. Studies have found that public transit also increases local economies. The American Public Transportation Association estimates that 87% of trips by transit directly benefit the local community, where they believe that $1 invested in public transit generates $5 in economic returns. It also helps reshape our neighborhoods, where going away from automobile-oriented neighborhoods creates more transit-oriented neighborhoods where housing, office spaces, and businesses are located around public transit routes. So what is the problem? Public transportation crumbles without ridership. And to increase ridership, you need 2 things: improving on arrival times and the number of usage, which offsets the cost. So it's a vicious cycle, because to improve quality, you need more users and riders. This is a big shift from the old streetcar system in the city that was frequently used and popular in the early 20th century. It used to be convenient, but as cars eroded public transit, it also eroded riders and they declined. The national average in waiting time for public transit is now 17 minutes as of 2022. And the average US ridership is typically only about 2 to 4% of the population. And with high operating costs, fares do not cover that overhead. So the financial deficits lead to further limited services. Public transportation is so expensive at the lack of usage. So mass transit needs the word mass to be successful, and it needs higher ridership. A 2022 survey on the incentives around public transit found that Americans choose accurate and reliable arrival times as the second biggest reason that would encourage them to use public transit more often. That's right behind lower fares. By eliminating fares, however, ridership increases. And as ridership increases, arrival times and routes increase. Director of Iowa City Transportation Service, Darian Nagel-Gam, believes that ridership could increase as much as 20 to 60% as more residents will be less inclined to drive. So one of the biggest successes in the neighborhood that I did was the Peninsula neighborhood, which the addition of the bus route provided on the hour and every 30-minute bus services during rush hour. And these routes to downtown and the Northern University campus helped fuel homeownership in the neighborhood. That connection to the bus route also increased values and provided alternative transportation options to a community that was once walled off, because it's a peninsula. It's like an island. Its addition also marked the halfway point of construction in the neighborhood, where the first 6 years of the neighborhood were plagued by the lack of growth and had less than 40 homes in it. But the subsequent 6 years since adding the bus route had over 403 properties. It's a long-term project, and more urban planning will be necessary. But the relatively small story here could reshape not only our communities, but the neighborhoods we live in. And by developing transit-oriented developments and reshaping our relationship with where we live, could also determine how we live. I hope you enjoyed this story on Iowa City news stories in real estate. If you want more stories about Iowa City real estate and luxury home tours, make sure to subscribe down below. Thanks for watching.